Evening and welcome to the Franchise Tag Podcast with me, your host, Freddie Hall. It is a very full house here this evening over the Franchise Tag. We've got all of us on this evening. Andrew, Sky, Adam, Johnny, we are all here. It's a shame we haven't got our only Eagles fan here, though. That could have been quite some fun, but it's going to be good fun anyway. We are on to the divisional round. We've had the wildcard weekend, and what a blast it was. I'm sure a lot of you had a lot of bags under your eyes after that weekend. A lot of sleepless nights, maybe because your team was in it or just because you just wanted to stay up and watch it, I suppose. But there's more football to come, some more late nights to come till it accumulates in Las Vegas with the Super Bowl on the 15th, Sunday the 15th, I believe. It's got to be Sunday the 15th. I reckon it is. I'm going to double check that just before we tell people the wrong date. It's the 11th, so it's not the 15th at all. Don't look out for the 15th. It's the 11th. We'll go straight into it tonight because there's a lot of us here tonight. So we'll go straight into the games. We'll link the games together to the divisional round as well. We'll start off with the Houston Texans game going up against the Cleveland Browns, Andrew. A 45-14 win over the Browns. The Texans just dominating. And Joe Flacco fever is now over.
Yeah, about time I wasn't on board the Joe Flacco train for that. A bit of a Disney story's come to an end finally, and the rightful better team and quarterback has got the victory in this game, I believe. So, roll on the Texans. I mean, I think they're a very nice team for people. If you haven't got someone in the race anymore, they're someone to really get behind and really like push and support because they're a very likable team, aren't they?
Very likable indeed. Sky, we heard the chant MVP for CJ Stroud. It's something me and you were definitely on the bandwagon for a few weeks ago. He was just remarkable, right? I mean, debut into the playoffs, really pushed the needle and moved the ball for the Texans.
Yeah, loved the way he played and really rose to the occasion because we've seen, I know we'll come on to a few years later, so-called veterans who crumbled under the pressure. So to see him thrive, especially against a Browns defense that I think people, including myself, have talked up all year. He just sort of dismantled them. Obviously, we know the Texans defense stepped up as well, but that's what you need to do, right? Take the pressure off of your young quarterback. Was really happy for him and D'Amico Ryans as well for them to get that victory at home.
Adam, the number one defense in all of the NFL, the Browns, a superb defense all season. Some great players on that defense as well. Myles Garrett, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Denzel Ward. Couldn't halt the 45 points for a pulp against them. How does this make them look today?
Yeah, they crumbled, didn't they? They really struggled to stop CJ Stroud, and it makes them look pretty poor, to be honest, if you can't deal with that. But there was a lot of defenses this weekend that were meant to be good that didn't do very well. So that seems to be a common thing. Maybe defense doesn't win championships after all.
Well, I feel like you may be having a slight dig at a certain team potentially.
Wouldn't say anything.
Johnny, Flacco on the day, Flacco fever was running wild. And I mean, his stat line was pretty incredible. 34 for 46, 307 yards, a touchdown, but them 2 picks. Did you think everyone got sort of caught in the emotion of how well Flacco was doing for the Browns? Do you think he has solidified a place in this squad for next year?
Well, I hope it's not the last time we see Joe Flacco in an NFL uniform, but I think it probably will be. It was a great story, as Andrew said, but it's come to an end now. And I think, Sunday's game, the back-to-back picks, yes, he started brilliantly, but unfortunately he's not been in the NFL or, as a starter for some time. I think the Browns just have to ride out and hope that Deshaun Watson comes back stronger because, the quarterback position is their main weakness. And that showed on Sunday night.
We'll go ahead and look towards the game again that the Texans will be playing in the next stage in the divisional round against the Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, the Ravens got the first round bye. Texans with the 4 seed winning their division. That is on Saturday at 9:30. I'll go to Sky to begin with on this. It's going to be the first time we see the Ravens in the playoffs this season. They were remarkable the whole year. In certain opinion, the MVP is on that team, Lamar Jackson. What have the Ravens probably learned from this Texans game against the Browns?
I think I know it sounds obvious, but don't take CJ Stroud lightly. And I mean, it's not that they will, but obviously the Baltimore defense led the league in sacks with 60. So Texans will be mindful of that. But I think they'll realise that, as Adam touched upon, there's many defenses that didn't turn up this week, and the Ravens will now be the defense that gets talked up throughout this week. So they want to make sure that they rise to the occasion there. And I'm sure Lamar as well will want to prove why he's the MVP. I mean, we know the votes are sort of decided beforehand, but I feel like and the narrative can still go on throughout the postseason. They won't want to be one and done. So they just need to not take them lightly. And Texans have had a big next man up mentality. Even someone like Noah Brown going down, who's going to be a next receiver to step up there. So they'll need to be on their toes with coaching this week and scouting when looking at the Texans offense.
Adam, the Texans team are going to be, really riding a high here. CJ Stroud playing some of the best football in that game that he's played all season. He's had a couple of injuries, obviously, in the season, and has looked a really good player. Do you think that the occasion may get to him? I know he was in, college playoffs as well with Ohio State, but do you think this quarterback's got the mentality to really push the Texans over the line in this game?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be the issue, to be honest. I think that you've seen with Stroud, like we said, they didn't win in the college game against Georgia, but they really pushed him, and he was the reason that they got as far as they got. So I'd be surprised if he suddenly crumbled now. I think just, being at home, to a certain extent, having that crowd there kind of, I felt like there was a level of expectation actually put on them. It felt like the home crowd thought they were going to win that game, and despite the fact of the Browns' defense being as good as they have been in the season. So, yeah, I don't think expectation will be a problem. I think really it's just going to be whether or not they can have enough pieces around him. I think that is going to be a bit of an issue going into this game, and obviously just the fact that the Ravens are just a very good outfit.
Right, well, we'll move on to the next game of the evening. That was the Dolphins coming up against the Kansas City Chiefs, a 26-7 result there for the Chiefs in a very, very, very cold night, Andrew. -20 to -25 degrees. We've seen the videos on social media of people getting the waters out of the fridges and they're freezing instantaneously. And there's just the breath of the players when they're all together on the pitch. It felt like it was a crazy occasion. Andy Reid's mustache freezing over, looking like the Lorax out there. This was sort of the exclamation point of what a lot of people felt about the Dolphins in the last few weeks, right?
Yeah, this game went exactly how it was scripted. I think we all thought that the Dolphins can't play in the cold weather. Tua struggles in the cold weather. They didn't have any pass rushes. They were injured. And Mahomes is a different beast when it comes to the playoffs, isn't he? So went to scripts. Feel like they've now got a bit of momentum behind them as well. So the Chiefs are going to be no pushover in the next game as well. But I think Dolphins have got some real things to look at now going forward of, is this going to be a problem every single year when they get to this point? Is Tua the right guy? So there's going to be lots to discuss for them going forward after this game.
It certainly is. And playoff Patrick Johnny seemed to be back again to his best. I mean, he has not had the greatest of the last two seasons. I don't think he has been prolific this year and last year as he has been in the past. We said a lot on this pod that sometimes Patrick needs to get back to his fundamentals a bit and a little bit less of the no-look throws and things like that. Do you think this is the sort of the best play of his career at the minute?
I think Patrick Mahomes is undoubtedly the most talented quarterback in the NFL, and he can switch on like that. And I still don't think he's hitting the top gear. It's going to be interesting to see how he comes up against Josh Allen against Buffalo, considering the defeat this season. Earlier this season. But I think he did everything that he needed to do. He was against the Dolphins. I think both quarterbacks were particularly cautious in the game. There wasn't really anything that the Mahomes did poorly, and the Chiefs generally just controlled the game, which the Dolphins. I think that's going to be the real issue, which Andrew sort of mentioned is where they go from here, because they don't seem to have a game plan against big teams, and I think that showed at the weekend.
Adam, a big thing that gets forgetting about the Chiefs a lot is their defense. It's not the talking point of this team. It is all about their offense, about Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, players like that. This defense played mean against Miami. I felt like they really stepped it up a gear and showed, and they've done this in the playoffs every year. I feel like that they go, it's not just the offense that pushes this team; it is the defense as well.
Yeah, I mean, during the season, they were ranked 4th when it came up to giving up passing and rushing touchdowns this season. So they've been very, very stingy all season. I would be surprised if that suddenly changed now. And you saw that with the way that they played against the Dolphins. They're a very strong defense. They're going to take them a long way, I think. Mahomes obviously is a great quarterback as well. And just the whole team in general is actually quite a solid team. It's just not as explosive as it has been in previous years. But a lot of people underestimate the Chiefs a little bit, but they are, they're defending champions for a reason.
Yeah, they are certainly. And it's going to be a very interesting game coming up against Buffalo, Sky, but we'll be more on that in a minute. With the coaching changes that are happening, maybe not necessarily very voluntary, but some coaches taking a bit of a step back who have been in the game a long time. We've seen Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll. Do you think there's any risk of Andy Reid doing something like that?
I don't know. I feel like their window's open for
that
a while.
That was a massive curveball question. I apologize. Yeah.
I was like, wow. It was because you said my name. Then with the question, I was like, is this for me? I was like, it is for me. Everyone's quiet. Damn, I've got to talk about Andy Reid. I think he'll be around for a while because their window's open as long as Mahomes is there, right? He showed that already with that Super Bowl win last season where he coached up on the field. Andy Reid coached up the receivers and Mahomes made them better around him. I mean, even when you look at a guy like Rashee Rice, who had such a big week last week, 130 yards, I think the future's bright for them. And he'll think, whilst Mahomes is here, I'll just keep coaching because it just improves his legacy year in and year out.
And I'll stick on with you, Sky, because we'll move on to the team that they're going to be facing in the next round. That's the Buffalo Bills, and they came up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, it was meant to be a nice 6 o'clock Sunday evening for Freddie. Nice early night watching my team maybe win. Gets moved to 9:30 because of the snow. I mean, again, was in the social media a lot all week, and I have to give credit to the Kansas City Chiefs fans and the Buffalo Bills fans because they all did show up and show it out. It was really incredible atmospheres in both stadiums. But a 31-17 win over my Steelers. Again, it's a bit of it's a story of two quarterbacks, isn't it? Mahomes and Josh Allen both have not been perfect this year, but have been really performing in the latter stages of the season. And Josh Allen carried on doing that in the playoffs.
Yeah, I thought Josh Allen was phenomenal, especially with no turnovers, 3 touchdowns. I mean, that 52-yard run as well, that just speaks volumes to the impact that he can make. And I'd say it's probably the best I've seen him play throughout his career, just because he seems to have learned from the mistakes and, of the past of trying to force downfield. We know how great his arm talent is and how much of a deep threat he is, but he seems to really be bought in this year, and they'll be super motivated playing the Chiefs at home, considering, the loss in Arrowhead a few years ago, that game we all remember. I can really see the Bills probably being as motivated as ever. And I'm going to just stick my neck out and say I think they're going to win and advance to the title game.
Wow, that is sticking neck out. Adam, sticking on the Buffalo team, James Cook. I mean, what a player he's been this year. It's been one of the things that we've said about the Bills is that they always just have a piece missing. They didn't have the receiver. They went and got Stephon Diggs. They didn't have the pass rush. They went and got Von Miller. Then they felt like he couldn't run the ball. They tested and tried it with a few players. They draft James Cook. Had a bit of a slow start, but I mean, he has just brought a new dimension to this team.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's actually changed since Joe Barry's come in, hasn't it? They seem to have found an offensive coordinator who can actually use him in the correct way, which is a start. He's looked really good at the back end of this season, and just constantly feeding him the ball is one way of definitely getting somewhere. I mean, the fact that you've got him that can rush, you've got Josh Allen, obviously, as we saw last night, that can do it as well. And of course, by doing that, it opens up the pass game, and people like Diggs can suddenly become a lot more relevant than what they have done in the back end of this season. So it's nice to see that they finally got themselves sort of like a run game that they can lean on, because that was always the problem, wasn't it? That you couldn't have both. And I think now that you've got both, I think you might start seeing them be a bit more variable as to what it is they can do and how they can attack teams.
Moving on to the Steelers, Andrew. I mean, there was a bit of a Joe Flacco hype, and there was a bit of Mason Rudolph hype. I probably got behind that a little bit as well. I mean, he looked stressed the whole of this game, didn't he? I mean, we have to remember the teams that he played were not the strongest.
Yeah, despite that, I think you still got to take your hat off to what he's managed to achieve in that short period of time, and the way that, you know, you went into that game with your third quarterback, you went in without TJ Watt, and you managed to hang around in that game for a lot longer than I thought you would. So I think there's a lot of props there to the Steelers in the fact that they showed up and they played tough. I think it was inevitable that you were going to be outclassed in this game with from the Bills, but yeah, I think it's really good, and it makes me wonder when it comes to decision making and things like that. If you'd have played Mason Rudolph earlier and not stuck around playing Mitch Trubisky for those interim games, you would have had the playoff position sewn up. You wouldn't have had to play your full strength squad in the last game. TJ Watt wouldn't have got injured, and would this been a lot more of a contest against the Bills? So, yeah, some question marks there of loyalty to players and hanging on to things too long has got to be on your mind there, Fred, with the Steelers.
I just hear a lot of what ifs and a lot of hindsights, to be honest with you. Johnny, notably, Mike Tomlin after the game was asked about the woman just said you've got a year left on your contract, and he walked out. What do you read into that?
Yeah, it's something that I think we will be talking about a lot more over the coming weeks. But you know, I don't think there's been any question marks over his over his tenure so far this season. But I think we're getting to a stage now where the Steelers are, you know, a plus 500 team every year, but they just don't seem to be able to get over that hurdle of being an elite team. And that's been the case for the last 10, 15 years. Whether that's the coaching or just, you know, some poor decisions, maybe draft, free agency, I don't know. I think there's, you know, a lot of teams who have rebuilt in recent years, or starting to rebuild. I'm sure Adam will come on to it in a short while, who have found immediate success and got themselves a decent quarterback. And I'm just not sure is that the route that the Steelers want to take? Do they want to completely remantle the team and the front office to sort of mirror image what they're seeing elsewhere in the league?
And I'll stick with you, Johnny, because we'll look at the Chiefs-Bills game. The Chiefs going to the Bills. That'll be on Sunday, 11:30 p.m. It's a hot contest that we have seen very regularly in the playoffs now. However, the one spinning factor is the Bills hosting this. The Chiefs do not go on the road very often in the playoffs. How much of a factor do you think that will be?
I think that's a huge edge, and I think we saw that this weekend in not just the Bills game. You know, fans throwing snowballs at the opposition players. You know how big Ford Field played. I know we'll get onto it in a bit, but that atmosphere there had a huge factor. Same with the Texans. So I think that's a definite advantage for Buffalo. It's a shame that they've picked up another couple of injuries last night. That's my only worry. You know, the O-line, I can't remember the O-lineman who was injured, but you know, they've got piles and piles of injuries already. I just hope it doesn't catch up with them, because I've been quite high on the Bills ever since they lost to the Patriots. I just thought, Josh Allen is too good for this team to sort of die down. I think, you know, these are two very evenly matched teams. One who are in great form, one who, you know, have got a great playoff win and looking to take advantage. So I think it'll be a classic Bills-Chiefs game. Coin flip. I'm not sure who's going to win, but I'd side with the Bills as the form team going into it.
Andrew, the injuries are stacking up for the Bills, and we always say that it feels like the window is closing a little bit. Is beating the Chiefs though in the playoffs the measuring stick? Really, if you can beat the Chiefs, you can beat anyone.
Yeah, I mean it's their game now as at home, and I think the difference with this game and what we've had in previous years, you say the window's closing, but previous years it's been Josh Allen playing Superman and trying to do it all himself, and him and Diggs. It's just been him and Diggs and nothing else. And if you shut one of those down, it kind of falls apart. But I think the difference with it this year is like Adam was briefly talking about. James Cook's now developed into a lovely piece. Dalton Kincaid and Knox as a pair are great pieces. Shakir now is playing out the slot lovely. It's not. There's parts of the games where Diggs can be quiet and he doesn't need to be in it 24/7 for them to win. So I feel like that they are looking like they're growing, if anything, and moving forward. So it doesn't all have to be on Josh Allen now. There's lots of pieces there to move this team forward. So I think they can overcome the injuries. They've managed to do it all year. They've managed to move pieces around across that front seven quite a lot. So it's going to be a very, very good game.
Okay, we'll move back over to Adam and talk about a game that he watched very, very, very closely, and that is the Packers beating the Dallas Cowboys 48-32, a scoreline that seems like it was a close game, but let's be honest, it really wasn't. The Packers really ran away with this, and they'll be coming up against the San Francisco 49ers in the divisional round. That'll be a Saturday into Sunday morning at 1:15, so a lovely late night for Adam. It's no rest for the wicked, is there, mate? How impressed were you with your team in this game? They were really, really a pleasure to watch.
Yeah, they did amazingly well. First time in quite a while that I can honestly say that I think that you can see that they've become a complete unit. I think that the defense still struggled a little bit at times, but in the first half they were very, very solid. I do think a lot of that might be more down to the quarterback of the opposition and just the general play of the Cowboys. But I think that they did really well. And, you lot keep going on about CJ Stroud as your MVP. I mean, do you actually want to get on the right horse at any time? There's only one guy, isn't there, really? I mean, you look at all the stats and he's ahead of him by a mile. So it's, I think there's a lot of people need to start sitting up and actually seeing what Jordan Love is doing, because a lot of people are still not there yet. And I understand that it's his first year, but some of them throws that he did were just ridiculous. It's Rodgers like, it's Mahomes like, it's stupid, really. But yeah, they did very well. It's going to be very, very tough against the 49ers, obviously, but I think if they play like the same again, then there's no reason why they can't.
Only a few years ago, Sky, it was Green Bay traded up, drafted Jordan Love. Why the hell would you do that? Why would you piss Aaron Rodgers off? Aaron Rodgers, they move off, and then we're seeing this from Jordan Love. I mean, 16 for 21, 272 yards, 3 touchdowns. Do you think there's sort of similarities in his development to someone like Jalen Hurts, who wasn't sort of an instant hit factor, and that the more this guy gets experience and plays, the more we're going to see quality from him?
Yeah, it's quite fortunate. Adam's heard me mention a few times a friend of mine out in Wisconsin who's a quarterback coach, and was saying to me when Jordan Love got drafted that he saw a lot of potential there. And I think we've seen that. And even if I don't picture Rodgers as, sounds a bit harsh, not the best mentor, I think Jordan Love just strikes me as a guy, though, who, regardless who's mentoring him, he seems to just love the game and love the sport and take that on board. And I'm just happy to see how well he played. I mean, I think at the start of the year, one of my hot takes was that he would finish with more Super Bowls than Aaron Rodgers. So the way he played on Sunday, I mean, I'll stick by that. I think people, like Adam said, people haven't really even noticed the run that he was on prior to this game. They were 6-2. He was 18 touchdowns to 1 pick. You know, he was already playing at a high level, but it was great to see him back it up, especially on the road. And yeah, I mean, now, if they haven't noticed already, then I think regardless of what happens against the 49ers, you know, the Packers are set for the future there.
Johnny, worrying times for the Dallas Cowboys, getting yet to the playoffs again, going out straight again. It's got to be worrying times, hasn't it? What can this team do to change up their fortunes?
Yeah, as you say, really, really worrying. I think particularly because of the form that we saw from the Cowboys at parts this season. I, for one, I got sucked in. I thought it was going to be the year that they were going to go on a bit of a run. And when it comes to the big stage, Dak and Mick McCarthy bottle it once again. I just feel that Sunday, epitomised what's wrong in Dallas. You know, the defense played really, really soft. We saw Micah Parsons drop back. The secondary were all over the shop. It's, you know, it's all good making plays and getting interceptions as a cornerback, but, you know, they got really caught out by Jordan Love and, you know, quite young, talented receivers, albeit, but quite, you know, inexperienced in that regard. I think Stephon Gilmore looks like he's probably past it. Yeah, and obviously Dak and Mick McCarthy are going to get the full brunt of the criticism and everything that comes with that. Whether McCarthy keeps his job, whether Dak leaves, I think it's all about the bigger picture in Dallas. It's such a pressure team to play for, and I just don't think a lot of the players are up to that at the moment.
Yeah, Andrew, Dak, I mean, the stats sound incredible. 41 of 60, 403 yards, 3 touchdowns, but 2 interceptions. I mean, we know why that is. Them sort of stats only come when you are very behind and when you are desperate and when you are trying to take the risky throws. I mean, nearly 3 receivers with 100 yards, CD 110, Michael Gallup 103, Jake Ferguson 93. So you could call it 3 receivers 100 yards. Is Dak the problem? Or you know, this is a team you watch a lot because obviously they're in your division. Well, not a lot, but you know, you keep an eye on them because you have to, because they're in your division. You want to know more about them, I suppose. Is Dak the problem here? Is it a Mike McCarthy problem? What's going on with Dallas?
You know, I've always thought Dak's a bit of a problem. I don't think he's an elite quarterback. I think he's a good quarterback. He's decent. I just don't think he's elite. And when he's behind, I mean, I said it to you guys on the chat. I thought as soon as they went behind, he's going to start forcing things. He's going to try and play a bit of hero ball, and interceptions are going to come. And it just defaulted back to last season of the interceptions rolling in. There's a Mike McCarthy problem as well, isn't there? I mean, we heard the commentators saying that they just didn't look up for it, and you know, it's what's going on if you can't get up for that game. They've now been beaten by Matt LaFleur and Shanahan, who both were with Dan Quinn, weren't they, when he was at Atlanta? And apparently they've kind of said that they're not afraid of him and he's become a bit predictable. So they need to. They're going to come up against these people every single year, so they've got to change something. And the fact that this is the strongest head coach off season we've had in a long time, if they need to make a move, they should probably make one now, shouldn't they? Because I'm quite sure if another team in this division decide to sack their head coach as well, you know, the likes of Belichick and Vrabel and Harbaugh are just going to be snapped up real quick. So I think the decision needs to come soon as well if they are going to move on from this little duo.
Well, I know that Bill Belichick had a interview at Atlanta today, but however, one Skip Bayless seemed very keen about matching a coach from one of Sky's favourite teams to a team of one of Sky's favourite teams and putting them together. That was apparently something that Skip Bayless liked the idea of, was Belichick in Dallas. Don't know how that would work out personally. Sky, the game, Packers 49ers. It's going to be tough, isn't it? I mean, this 49er team has just run rampant all year. back in the playoffs again. Hopefully going to have a bit more luck than they did in the NFC Championship game last year. How do you see this going? What the Packers got to do?
Yeah, so tough because of, CJ Stroud and Jordan Love. I think right now the reason I mention him is because I feel like they're both top 10 quarterbacks on current form. I really like them, but for both of those teams in these matchups, they're coming up against the 1 seed now. You think, how are they going to get it done? I think the big factor for the Packers was Aaron Jones, to get 3 touchdowns, and another guy who weirdly has gone under the radar because, he was already leading the league over the last few weeks in terms of those rushing yards and made a huge impact. I think probably stating the obvious, but they need to win the time of possession because that's what the 49ers do so well. So if the Packers can get that back somewhat, that will give them a chance. And they will take, enough pleasure and hope in the fact of seeing what the Ravens done to the 49ers recently. I think that Packers pass rush is capable of potentially causing similar problems. So if they can fluster Purdy early like they did to Dak, then I guess that's the route to potential victory. But sorry, Adam. No, Freddie asked. Still going to lean towards the Niners, but it'd be nice if the Packers won because we see Adam happy and smiling like he's been today. We like that, but I'm still leaning towards the Niners.
I tell you what, the spread on this game is plus 9.5 for the Packers. I mean, I think they'll be in the game, won't they?
That's a life savings then on that.
What worries you, Adam, about the 49ers? Do you think if the Packers beat the 49ers, they can win the Super Bowl?
Yeah, because I think the 49ers are the best team in the NFC. Yeah, I mean, I don't...
But are they the best team in the NFL, though?
No, I don't think they are. Personally, I think the Ravens are the best team in the NFL. But I think once you get to the Super Bowl, you've got a puncher's chance at least, haven't you? And that's the point. So, I think there are certain things that you're just not going to be able to stop. You just have to accept that that's what's going to happen. You're not going to stop Christian McCaffrey. He's going to score on you. He's going to get loads of yards on you. It's how it goes. Their defense will be good. It's just a matter of, I think we need to, if we can get the ball first, great. If we can put pressure on them first, great. It's exactly the same as what they did against Dallas. That's the mantra that they've got to go with. If you're 4th down, you go for it. That's what LaFleur's got to do again. Even if you're up, you saw it against Dallas. They were up by miles and it was still 4-2 and they threw another touchdown in. I think that's the way they've got to go. And it's kind of a bit of live by the sword, die by the sword, I think, is the way they're going to have to go with it. And hopefully that will get them somewhere. I personally don't think our pass rush is going to be able to do the sort of stuff that the Ravens did against the 49ers. It's just not quite as strong. But we've got a chance. And that's probably, if we were given that at the beginning of the season, I think any Packers fan would have taken it.
Well, it's certainly going to be a fun game, and obviously wishing the best for your Green Bay Packers, of course. We move on to the next game, which will be, we'll go to Andrew first because it's going to be talking about the Detroit Lions beating the LA Rams 24-23. They will progress on to play the Buccaneers Sunday, 8:00. We'll talk about the Tampa game as well. But we'll begin with this Detroit team, Andrew. I mean, they have progressed the right way. I think this is the neutrals team, isn't it, at the moment? They just play some fantastic football with some incredible players. And they were really fortunate, obviously, at getting Laporta back for this game. Amon-Ra St. Brown was incredible. What impresses you most about this Detroit team?
Just their will and desire, really. It's everything that you're saying that everybody's buying into. Some reason they're still a bit of an underdog, despite the fact of what they've done all year. So it's great that you can get behind them, and they've all got a point to prove, haven't they? Dan Campbell's got a point to prove, and Jared Goff's definitely got a point to prove with him, and that's great to see. But for me, I'm not sure about you guys, but I felt like this was the best game of the playoffs. I thought it was the one that was played with the most competitive, and I thought both quarterbacks were absolutely excellent in this game. Lovely little shootout. But yeah, they've got everything right on them, and everybody wants them to do well. And like I say, Jared Goff's got a big point to prove, hasn't he?
He definitely has. Johnny, do you think he's a point that he may be able to prove? Because I said, well, let's start with Dan Campbell. How much has Dan Campbell just really grabbed this organisation by the scruff of the neck and just raised it to a height that they did not know they could get to, 3 years ago, or when he was even hired?
Oh, of course, he's as a sports person, you'd love to play under Dan Campbell. He's someone who motivates you. He gets you in the mood to, you just do absolutely anything to support him. He seems like such a great character, and he's got some brilliant footballing minds around him. Including the general manager Brad Holmes, who's done such a brilliant job of building this team. It's the perfect coaching front office setup. The best atmosphere I think in the NFL at the moment is in Detroit, and I'm really excited for Jared Goff. It's going to be a really big game, the game of the quarterbacks who no one wanted. One say Jared Goff versus Baker Mayfield. One of them is going to be playing in an NFC conference championship game in a week's time. Who'd have thought that? So I think it's a really exciting time to be a Detroit fan, and for all that they've suffered over 30 years without a playoff win, I think they deserve it for the way they play and the characters that they've got around.
Sky, we'll talk about the Rams for a second. They really, held their own against this team. And like we said, the narrative of the story was, Goff v Stafford are playing against their ex-teams. Stafford got a few boos in the stadium as well. They're a team that's clearly got talent, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, but is it what needs to change for this Rams team to sort of push them over the edge? Because they're not quite on step with how they were when they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think they need to take a lot of, positivity from this season. I'd said to someone on the weekend, I think Andrew's the only person I know who's talked the Rams up in the offseason. Everyone else probably, I heard the commentator last night saying, was it Aikman said no one had the Bucs over 4 wins? I was like, really? I felt like that's what people had the Rams at. So for them to get Kyron Williams, Nacua, I know me and Adam spoke that maybe looked like Cooper Kupp had lost a step, but he's still an elite receiver on his day. Maybe a healthy offseason under his belt. They come back next year, they draft well again. We've seen the videos of McVay, and they knew they nailed that pick with Nacua from the get-go. So there was obviously some good chemistry going on there in that front office. I think the only reason they'll have that sour taste in their mouth is because of the game that they had with Stafford going back to Detroit. It almost felt like a lot of people felt he was going to walk in and beat his old team and get it done. But I say fortunately it wasn't the way, because I was happy for Jared Goff. But I think the Rams just need to keep pressing on and doing what they're doing, and they're primed for a bright future.
Adam, do the Rams have a bit of a case that they had a call that should have gone their way with a holding on was it on Nacua? Do you think they may feel a little bit robbed by this?
Probably a little bit, but you get them all the time, don't you, when it's a bit like this? I think if that's the only thing you've got to complain about, then it's not that much really. I think you could argue there are calls in probably every game that could have changed certain little things, but yeah, you're probably right. There probably was a bit of a call there that could have gone their way, but at the same time, they could have scored more points, couldn't they? So, that would have helped.
It's always my argument. It's always my argument. You can't blame flags. You can't blame it. You've got to put points on the board, haven't you? Right, we'll still go on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beating the Philadelphia Eagles 32-9. Adam, I'm going to stick with you for the minute so I don't have to hear Sky talk about Baker just yet. Is this the shock result of the weekend?
I don't think it really was. I think it was, to me, when me and Sky were doing the betting show, we were very much saying it's a bit of a coin flip game, this one. The way that the Eagles sort of came into it with that defense struggling so much, you could score relatively easily on them. It felt like it could go either way. I think the majority of people probably thought the Eagles would keep it and would win, just purely because of the players that they have on that team. And, you feel like Jalen Hurts is going to rush a lot and sort of like be able to get over the line. Of course, it didn't really happen. And the Bucs came out winners of it. So I wouldn't say it was a massive shock. Really, I thought it could have gone either way. So yeah, I think the Bucs, they look pretty good.
I'm not even going to ask a question, Sky. I'm just going to say 22 for 36, 337 yards, 3 touchdowns. Take it away.
Pat a cake. Mayfield's the man. Baker me some touchdowns as fast as you can. I wrote it yesterday. He was throwing the ball with some zip. Like he's been good all season anyway. But again, now suddenly everyone wants to take notice. I think also the Tampa defense deserves credit. I mean, Levante David was the one who stood out for me watching the game. And, Fred, I've mentioned all season about how, there's people that have won that Super Bowl with Brady for his really impressive performance. But just going to Mayfield for 1 second, there's a slight segue, like seeing him and his confidence and coming in on a 1-year deal, prove it. And people even talking up Trask to outbeat him. And that was almost looks like disrespect. I feel like a character like him on the Cowboys is what they need. Sometimes you like Josh Allen on the Bills, Big Ben for you guys. They were quarterbacks built for the cold weather. We know Tua could never play on a cold weather team. And I feel like Baker Mayfield, he walked into the Browns, managed to get a playoff win. I know it didn't work out well, but he's just got the right attitude. And I feel like certain franchises need that. So, yeah, if Baker was on the Cowboys, they would have won the Super Bowl, wouldn't they? Just like the Bucs might.
I hate Baker Mayfield. Johnny, the Eagles, only 9 points, a team that has really struggled, it's felt like season. Even though they've had an 11-6 record, a lot of people saying they were sort of posers, not really the same team as last year. I mean, what's gone wrong here for the Eagles?
It's become a really bad wildfire in Philly. I think it all comes down to play calling. We saw last night just how predictable the Eagles have become. And I saw a tweet from Gareth about the screenplays, constant screenplays. But he's right. Jalen Hurts is making plays. Based off what he's been told, and it's just nothing's going right because of how they've been set up. And I think Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson, the offensive coordinator, and Matt Patricia as well, I think they're all going to be shoveled off. It's going to be an off season where so many people leave Philadelphia that they're going to have to make drastic changes. The free agency list, obviously, we had Jason Kelsey retire today. The free agency list is absolutely outrageous. The amount of big names as well, who are set to leave. And obviously AJ Brown didn't play in the game. There's been a lot of question marks over him in the last couple of weeks. They're over reliant on Devonta Smith. Some big changes needed in Philly. On paper, looking at the record, they started the season 10-1. For the last few weeks, they've not been able to get anything right. I thought they'd win this game, but they were, they got beat by a Buccaneers team who aren't particularly great, but you could tell they wanted it more, and they played and they were aggressive, and ultimately that's what wins you football games.
Andrew, I mean, it was actually a really successful weekend for you, wasn't it, really? Like the Cowboys and the Eagles both dramatic, third out of the playoffs in dramatic fashion. We talked about Bills fans throwing snowballs in the air. There was an Eagles fan that threw popcorn at Nick Sirianni. Johnny talks about the huge amount of players that could be free agents. Jason Kelsey retired today. Is it going to be reset mode for the Eagles? Because they did the same thing to Doug Peterson, didn't they?
Yeah, cry Eagles, cry. Great.
I prefer that over pat a cake. Do
you know what? I think as good as Howie Roseman is at doing trades and getting draft picks and things like that, he apparently, I've heard this, his first choice head coach prior to getting Sirianni was Brandon Staley. Then he didn't get Staley, and he got Sirianni. And is anybody else thinking this screams out that they've got a bit of a Staley issue? If they bring him back, they've done what the Chargers did last year and bringing Staley back, and this is going to happen again because if they don't make a change now, like you're right, what they're going to have another year of just being bad and people becoming expensive, and what do you do with Jalen Hurts and contracts and everything like that. So they really need to get on this now. And they have been a team, as Gareth said in the group, that they do move on quite quickly from head coaches. But yeah, what does Sirianni do? What does he bring to the table? He can't call the offense. He doesn't know what defense is. He clearly can't build a team of coordinators around him. But at the end of the day, they've still got some extremely good pieces on that team. I mean, they went heavy on drafting a lot of Georgia defensive players from that extremely strong defense of the Georgia Bulldogs. They still have got nice pieces at running back. They've still got Jalen Hurts, who just needs someone a coordinator or head coach to get him back on track, because I just think he hasn't been. I think he's been injured all year. I don't think he's ever been fit once this year. And you've seen a clear drop off from after Shane Steichen left in the way he plays. So there's still a lot at the Eagles, I think, for them to move forward. There's a lot of nice pieces. It's not rebuild, is it? There's a lot of youngsters. But yeah, when did they forget to run the ball? I mean, I thought they were like a bit more of a run first team, and they ran the ball like 16 times. So yeah, bit strange what's going on there. But as we said earlier, very, very strong head coach off-season class. So they're another team that needs to make a decision quickly.
We'll stick on you, Andrew. We'll stick on you and Johnny for this ending section. Sunday, 8:00, the 4th seed Buccaneers go to the Detroit Lions. A game that's, I mean, you talk about it like a guy with motivation and an emotional quarterback in Baker Mayfield, an emotional coach in Dan Campbell. Is this a game of simply who wants it more?
Are you going with me first? Is it?
I am going with you. Yes.
Would
you like to take a sip of water, because you did just talk quite a lot then? I didn't know if we needed. So I go to Johnny first if you want.
No, you're good. I just didn't know where we're going. If you watch the first half or the first quarter at least of the Buccaneers against the Eagles, there's a lot of drop passes, and the Eagles were still in the game for quite a while. I think that if they'd have gone up against anybody else, they might have got a bit of a lead on them and a bit in front, and the Bucs would then be playing from behind. So I don't think you're going to get those mistakes and the space against the Lions. So I think this might be the end of the run for Baker Mayfield. I think the Lions are maybe one step too good for him across the board for talent wise. So, but it's another great story for the NFL, isn't it? I think he's been good. He's shown his maturity, shown that he can go to another team and produce the goods and win in the playoffs. So I think that's excellent for him. I think he's won himself another contract. So that's going to be good. But I think the Lions are a different class, and he's going to struggle against them, especially if the mistakes are there like they were against the Eagles.
And Johnny, the Bucs go into Detroit, which, ordinarily you would go weather, but the Lions play inside. So, that's going to be fine for the Bucs going up to play in Detroit. How do you see this game going?
Yeah, I can't disagree with Andrew. I think the Lions will be heavily favoured going in, and I think they'll prove too good. These two teams met earlier in the season, and the Lions won, and they even had a lot of injuries. I believe Jameer Gibbs, David Montgomery, Brian Branch didn't play in that game. So yeah, I think a full strength Lions team should be able to cope with the Buccaneers threat. We mentioned the advantage of playing at home, and I think that's something that the Lions definitely thrive on, particularly against the Rams, who I think everyone on the pod was favouring the Rams to cause a bit of an upset, which they almost did. But yeah, I think the Lions have real quality and could make a serious threat getting into the Super Bowl.
Okie dokie. Well, we're not quite at the hour mark yet, but we have gone over the 45, but it's fine. We'll do quickly one more thing. Thank you all of you for your opinions on the games that have gone and the games to come. However, we need some results really from everybody. So I'll do it the same way around every time. We'll go Andrew to Sky, to Adam, to Johnny, to me. We'll start with the Saturday 9:30 game. The Texans go to the Ravens. Andrew, who you got?
It's the Ravens for me. Best team that they've had. So, yeah, I think the Ravens take this one.
Sky?
Yeah, Mark Andrews is back, isn't he? Or at least he's been activated. So I'm going Ravens.
Adam?
Ravens.
Johnny?
I'm going to go for the Texans. I think the Ravens could be on a bit of a, they've had a week off. Texans looking good. Why not? Backing an upset.
I'm going to back an upset as well. I think Ravens are a momentum team, and I don't think that week off did them good, and they rested their players at the end of the week. I think they're a bit of a momentum team, so I'm going to go for the Texans as well. We're going to the Saturday into Sunday morning game, 1:15. The Packers at the 49ers. Andrew?
49ers.
Sky?
I'm sorry, Adam, because I feel like I made a good case for the Packers, but yeah, like you said with McCaffrey, I'm going Niners.
Adam?
I'm going to stick with this formula. Every time I go for the opposition, we win. So 49ers.
Johnny?
I'd love to go Packers, but they're such a good team to root for. But I think the Niners are going to edge this one.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go Niners as well. For me, they're the best team in football. Sunday, 8:00, the Bucs going up against the Lions, Andrew.
The Lions for me, obviously, from the points I made earlier. I think the Lions are another class and they're better than the Bucs.
Sky, is Baker going to defeat the Lions?
Todd Bowles likes to blitz a lot, and Goff is not great against the blitz. So I will say Tampa. But if the Lions win this, I would say they will make the Super Bowl, but I will say Tampa for now.
Okay. Adam?
Lions.
Johnny?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the Lions. Looking forward to seeing them go far.
I need more of Dan Campbell in locker room shouting and screaming and crying. Lions are going to win this. And then we go into the last game of the weekend, Sunday at 11:30. The Kansas City Chiefs going up to the Buffalo Bills, Andrew.
It's going to be a close one. I could see it going either way, but I'm going to side with the Bills in this one.
Sky?
This will prove that the Chiefs dynasty is just fake, really, won't it? They can't play on the road in the playoffs, so I'm going Buffalo.
Adam?
Yeah, I think the Bills are finally going to get over them on this one. This is the one, so I'm going to go for the Bills.
Johnny?
Yeah, come on the Bills. I think Josh Allen get the edge on this. Why not? Bring in the AFC East. Come on.
I'm going to go the Bills as well. I'd like to not see the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship yet again. I do find it a bit dull on occasion when the same teams go all the time. And also, I've rang the bell for the Bills for a while. Thank you very much for watching. I know it's been a long one. If you've watched it all, we are now trying to clip things up into segments. So if you just want to hear about your team, there is now bite-sized, manageable portions on YouTube for you to watch as well for our shows. Andrew, Sky, Adam, Johnny, thank you very much. Enjoy the divisional round. Good luck to all your teams. Good luck to the Packers, Adam. And we'll see you all next week.